Hey everyone, it's Karen. Okay, I have some news. I am going to the UK this summer. For real, I have the tickets. It is set. I even have train tickets. Like, things are legit now. I have places to stay. I have transportation tickets. Like, we're in 100% right now. I thought for May, it would be really, really fun if I just took a hold of this enthusiasm that I have for my upcoming trip and just powered it and sourced it into my reading. I've decided that I'm going to do a challenge for one, which is called Mudlarking in May. And it's essentially where you just read a mismatch and just a collection of whatever the heck I want that takes place in England or Wales during my trip. I will be going to London and then to Norwich and then to Cardiff and maybe a few other places along the way, but those are the for sure places. And so I'm hoping that all of the books either take place there or were written by English or Welsh authors or have some sort of connection to the UK. So I would like to show you some of my possibilities, but I'm really, really interested in your suggestions as well. So if you have any favorite books that you feel would fit into kind of where I'm traveling, I would love so much to hear your recommendations. To start off, like any good traveler, you need a guide. And so I actually thought of making this challenge into a little guide with different prompts and stuff, but I decided that would be cute, but that would take some time. And it would be not really mood reading, which is my jam. I need to mood read. So maybe in the future, it would be really fun to make a little travel guide themed reading thing. I was thinking kind of along the lines of something Doris did a long time ago, where it was a summer readathon and you read one fiction, one nonfiction from a place. That would be cool. But anyway, we're not doing that. We're just mood reading. To start off, we have loads of travel guides. I probably will just glance through these since the majority of my trip is already planned. But I have the Rough Guide to Wales. I have apparently 2 copies of Lonely Planet Wales, so I will have to see which one is more up to date. Then I have Rick Steves' Great Britain and Discover England and Wales, the big travel book. So yeah, like I said, my trip is already planned, but these could be really fun just to look through because I've already decided I'm going back. The Airbnb I found in London, it was recommended to me by a friend, and so based on the pictures, the reviews, and my friend's recommendation, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love it. It is so inexpensive. I feel that if I booked a trip to London at a better time than the summer, because I spent a fortune on this trip, but I could just get a cheap flight to London and just live it up. I'm coming back, okay? So this might be more future-based than the current trip-based. Moving on to nonfiction. The first book is actually not at all British in any sort of way. However, it was recommended to me by Sarah, and I thought it would be really cool if I read it before I saw her, so that if we wanted to talk about it, we could talk about it, but honestly, I'll probably just...
Could you try again?
Honestly, I'll probably just talk to her about it in WhatsApp or whatever before. But anyway, it's called Bread and Wine, and it's by Shauna Nyquist, and she's actually from Chicago. And the reason Sarah recommended it to me is not only because she loved it, but also because the author talks about Grand Rapids at some point. Okay, on to nonfiction. Now, you guys should know that I've been trying to conquer my TBR, and I have moved books around to prioritize them. I have an entire closet full of nonfiction. There's so much more UK nonfiction in my closet, but I didn't go through that today. So these are just some things to get started. First of all, I think that Heather has raved about this book 25 million times. Not Quite White. I think that this is about kind of the differences between England and Wales and how a lot of people from outside England and Wales just feel they're 2 different parts of the same island, when actually there's a lot of cultural differences and history and all that stuff that kind of led to them being 2 distinct countries. And so yeah, I'm excited to get to this. Then from the library, I got a history of Wales, which has been already very informative. I have learned about teeth in caves and about the development of agriculture and about also how we tell when humans were first in an area. Like, do we base it on writing, which would be like 48 AD, or do we base it on just evidence in general of humans? And that would be like, I think like 200 BCE or something. But anyway, I'm loving this book so far. I think this is a book that was mentioned on Heather's channel like years ago, like when the channel first started. Her book was called Mudlarking, I feel like, and this one is called Mudlark, In Search of London's Past Along the River Thames by Laura Makelum. I don't know if it's the same book. I would have to look back at her channel, but that's just too much. So I'm just going to read this. Mudlarking is something I didn't even know was a thing until I watched Heather's video like years ago. But it's basically just like exploring the riverbanks on the side of a river and trying to find treasures. And because the Thames obviously has been an area that has been populated for so long, like along the Thames, there's loads of artifacts that like are absolutely incredible, I'm feeling. So it'll be really interesting just to read this. Ooh, also, I didn't realize how big the font was, so I feel like this will be much quicker than it seems. Okay. This book, I think, is fairly new. It's called Femina, and it is a new history of the Middle Ages through the women written out of it. So this will be like history and about, it's basically like a feminist version of history that we may have heard about before, but that includes women. And I just think this will be super fascinating and empowering. And there's already like pictures of like art and different artifacts, and yeah, I think it will be really fun to read this. Okay, then The Wild Silence. I read another book by this author, Raynor Wynn, and I don't know particularly what this one is about, but typically the woman just launches off on these epic walking, hiking adventures, and the last one was really good. It was about her husband having Parkinson's and how, or something like Parkinson's, and how they went on this epic adventure and how all the walking and the physical exercise actually got rid of a lot of his symptoms. And it was just absolutely amazing because she thought that it would just kind of like help.
I'm not sure I understand.
She just thought that the walking would kind of help like minimize the symptoms or just kind of like make them a little bit better. But it turns out that his Parkinson's was actually like reduced, like temporarily for sure, but like his brain physically improved after all their walking. Okay, this book is actually also not British, at least as far as I know. But I thought it'd be interesting to read because a lot of times when you go traveling, you visit museums. And this book is about decolonizing museums and about how basically when you go into a museum and there's all these like amazing artifacts and exhibits and all this stuff that are just from all over the world, all over time, like what right does the museum have to hold those items? And like I think that it will be really interesting because at some point there's this discussion of like, well, where's the best home for these items and who can take the best care of them and who can allow the most people to be able to view them. But then there's also the point like, how did you originally acquire these? Who do they actually belong to? And why are they not back with the people that they belong to? Finally, for nonfiction, I have Ghost Signs, Poverty, and the Pandemic, and I believe that this takes place in England, the north of England, and it just talks about how the pandemic impacted people. On to classics. I have a few. If we're going to start with the oldest classic, it is the Mabinogion. I don't think I said that right. Mabinogion. I have this book. This is basically like Welsh stories from way back in the day. I'm not exactly sure when it starts, but a lot of the stories we know today are like recreations of these stories, retellings, whatever. And so it'll be really interesting to read the original source if I'm able to understand it. I'm hoping that it's readable. If it's not, maybe I will DNF, but we'll see. The other thing is that the sword and the stone sort of situation is basically, I think, originally kind of in this book. Like, maybe not this story is in this book, but Arthur, King Arthur, is basically one of these Welsh stories. And then this English author kind of took those stories and I think made them his own. So this book I actually have read before, The Sword and the Stone. We read this in 7th grade history class. However, I loved it then. I loved the movie, like the Disney cartoon, and I'm really interested in reading it again. Plus, I love this cover. Then we have some Wilkie Collins, which I'm not too sure about, but maybe they're creepy. That would be cool. All right, fiction. I have loads, so let me grab them. Okay, I have another stack on the table. This is just the first stack. The Color of a Dog Running Away by Richard Gwynne. He is the author of The Blue Tent, which I loved. However, 2 people that I kind of forced to read it absolutely hated it. So I'm not really sure. Anyway, I heard this book is like, not good, like about ready to DNF, and then it turned in the end and became amazing. So we will see what I think about this. The Last House on the Cliff. I actually started reading this one for Dowithon this year, and then I didn't really DNF it. I just kind of put it to the side. So far, I thought it was really, really interesting about this house and mysteries and tension. But I just felt like it was trying too hard to be Welsh. And I don't know, because I'm American, I don't really know if that's my imagination that it's trying too hard to be Welsh, or if that's actually like kind of normal in Wales. But I just felt like there's so many books in that I read that take place in Wales, and they're just like weird as crap, and they're eerie and they're unsettling and all this stuff. But this book was like, hello, I am from Wales. Like, just like, I don't know. I just felt like it was a lot, maybe kind of heavy-handed. Then Drift by Carol Lewis. Kieran read this, and I don't know if he hated it, but I think that he probably did. And then also Heather from Soggy Expat Book Nerd read it, and I thought she gave it 4 or 5 stars. So who knows about this one? I'm going to at least try it. Then from Philip Pullman, this book is called Demon Voices. Now, I have not finished his series, the Dark Materials books, or there's a different word for them if you live in the UK. The Northern Lights, maybe? But I believe that this is just like essays on stories and storytelling. However, I still probably would like to read his books, the series, or the trilogy first before I start this. But I love books on books and books on writing, and I just feel like this would be super cool to read. Okay, and then with that being said, kind of out of order, this is the only book that I have left to read in the trilogy, and I started it before, and what I loved about it was that I felt like it got really deep into like a religion and spirituality, at least from what I can remember. And so I like talking about religion and spirituality, and I like thinking about it, and so I'm hoping that this book will go there. And then finally, The Witches by Roald Dahl. So Roald Dahl is from Cardiff. My favorite story by him is called The Landlady, which takes place in Bath, so we'll see if I get to go to Bath. But anyway, I've never read the graphic novel version of this. I have read the regular one. My neighbor is smoking, and it smells horrible, so hang on, I need to close my window. Okay, finally, I'm on my final stack of fiction books, which I will share with you if I can breathe, because that smoking smell is horrible. I'm about to get cancer up in here. Okay, so the next book was recommended by Sarah a long time ago, and it's called The Paper and Heart Society. And the reason she recommended this is that it was just really cozy and heartwarming, and that it had demisexual representation in here, which I don't think I've ever found in a book, so that's amazing. Okay, and then Still Life by Sarah Weinman. Lots of people have talked about this. It sounds like it is a World War II story, and basically I don't know anybody who has not liked it. Then there's 2 Sarah Waters books that I have not read yet, and they are The Night Watch and Affinity. Now, I haven't actually looked at her entire like list of books that she's published to know if these are the only 2 I haven't gotten to, or just the only 2 that I own that I haven't gotten to. But I hear that like a new book should be coming soon, so it would be nice to kind of catch up on her backlist. Then a book that has been recommended by Anne Novella, and that is Orpheus Builds a Girl. This is probably weird as crap because that's kind of her jam. Then a YouTube darling, which I hope is like actually amazing, which I think it will be. Because a lot of times when you have like Instagram darlings or BookTube darlings, they're actually like over like talked about and overrated, and you just like get your hopes like so hyped up for it, and then it ends up being absolutely horrible. But I don't think this is going to be the case for this one. Basically, we all know and love Katie, and she has made a book or written a book called The Secrets of Heartwood Hall. I was seeing everybody else get this before me, and I was not sure why, because I was pretty sure I pre-ordered it. But basically, I remembered that I ordered the UK version because I liked this cover better. And I think it actually came out after the US version, which is weird. But I think this will be so, so good. I feel like I'm going to learn so much, but also get all those eerie mystery sort of vibes that I love. So we will see. And then English Animals. I feel like lots of people have talked about this too. Basically, it says when Mirka gets a job in a country house in rural England, she has no idea of the struggle she faces to make sense of a very English couple. Richard and Sophie are chaotic, drunken, frequently outrageous, but also warm, generous, and kind. Yeah, I don't remember, like, I mean, that sounds good, but I feel like there are other reasons that somebody said, that like what they said triggered me to get this book, but I can't remember exactly what they said, but I'm super excited to get to it. I probably said that for every book, so I do apologize. I'm so sorry. Then we have Haverscroft, which is by S.A. Harris, and I believe that this author is actually from Norwich, which all these I kind of looked up, and I know they're from England or from Wales, but where in England or Wales I haven't actually researched. I just thought this cover looked really good, and I am excited to read something by this author. Then I only have 3 more. The Wolf Border by Sarah Hall. This says, for almost a decade, Rachel Kane has turned her back on home and worked in Idaho at a reservation for wolves. As one of the few experts in her field, she is summoned back to England for the eccentric Earl of Annandale to help with his plan for rewilding wolves on his estate in the Lake District. As Rachel attempts a gradual reconciliation with her estranged family, her work with the Earl begins to generate public outrage and the threat of sabotage. Set against a backdrop of Scottish independence and a tumultuous power struggles both locally and nationally, The Wolf Border is a novel steeped in wilderness and wildness, both animal and human. So I do have a lot of books that take place in Scotland, and I specifically chose not to include them because I want it to be specifically the places that I'm going to in the UK. However, this one does say England and then later says Scotland, so I think it will be good. And also, I think it will be fine. And also, there are no rules because I made this up myself. All right, next, also recommended by Anne Novella, and it is Our Wives Under the Sea. I don't want to read the back. I don't want to know anything. I just want to go into this blind and see what happens. And then finally, I picked this up in a bookstore fairly recently. Was it in Vermont or Chicago? I think it was in Chicago when I got this. It is called Bird Summons, and it is by an author that Layla Abuela, and she has been 3 times Orange Prize longlisted. Oh yes, I got this from 57th Street Books, which is Barack Obama's favorite bookstore, or at least it was his bookstore in his neighborhood that he loved. So there's that. The author delivers a lively portrait of three women who embark on a journey of self-discovery while grappling with the conflicting demands of family, duty, and faith. Cool. All right. Those are all the books I have. I would like to try and spend more time reading in May and less time being distracted by my phone or by YouTube or by vacation planning. We will see what I can get through, but I am really curious to hear any other recommendations you have, anything specifically tied to the cities of London, Norwich, and Cardiff, or anything just in general that you think I would love, or any recommendations, travel tips, anything. Let me know. I hope that you guys have loads of fun adventures planned for this summer as well, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.